So let's take a look at the beginning of graphing. And when we start graphing, we need to look at ordered pairs. And ordered pairs come in coordinates. And we write them with parentheses, and we put the x coordinate first and then the y coordinate. And you can remember that because x comes before y in the alphabet. So an example of that would be if we looked at a table of values, we always put our x's first and then our y's. And so if we were to write those as an ordered pair, 0 for x and 2 for y would look like this: 0, 2. 1, 4 would look like 1, 4, and 2, 6 would look 2, 6. So we can use those to help us with graphing. And when we graph, we're going to look here at our little graph. And this is what a graph looks like. And the graph has an x-axis, it's called the x-axis, and it's really a number line. And here's the starting point for 0, and then I went by ones up here, 1, 2, 3, and -1, -2, -3. So it's just a number line for the x. I also do a number line for the y, and again, here's the 0 point, and then 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. You can change these numbers on your axes depending what numbers you're going by. So, for example, if I was looking at ordered pairs that had millions, I would probably make my numbers here go up by much larger, not 1, 2, 3, because I don't want to write all the way up to 1 million. This point here in the middle is called the origin, and that is the point 0 for x and 0 for y. When we want to plot a point, what we do is we would look at a point, and let's say I wanted to plot the point 2, 1. So 2, 1 means I'm going to go over 2 on the x-axis. This is the x-axis, and I'm going to go up 1 on the y-axis. So 2 over and 1 up, and that is my point 2, 1. If I want a point 0, 0, that's plotting point 0, 0. Here was plotting the point -2, -3. So my x value was a -2, so here's my x-axis. I go back onto -2, and then I'm going to go down -3. And that's point -2, -3. Now I notice this is called quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, this is quadrant 4. We call this system the coordinate plane. Some books call it the rectangular coordinate system. So here if I say let's graph some ordered pairs, the way I can do it is I look at this. Again, my x always comes before my y. So I'm going to go over 1 on my x and up 2 on my y, and that is the point 1, 2. Here my x is 3, my y is 4, so I'll go over 1, 2, 3 on my x, up 1, 2, 3, 4 on my y. There's the point 3, 4. This point says 0 for my x, 1 for my y. So 0 for my x means I don't move anywhere. It actually stays on the x-axis. And I plot a point right there, 1. -1, 0, that means I'm going to go over -1 for my x, but my y is 0. That means I don't move up or down at all on the y-axis. I'll just sit here on my x-axis. And then finally, if I do 0, -1, that means I don't go anywhere here on this axis because I don't have any x. My x is 0, so I stay here on the y-axis, and I go down -1 for y. That was 0, -1. So sometimes we want to graph our points and see what they look like. So here we can use a table, and so this table, this gives me the point 0 for x and 2 for y. So that was this point here, 0 for x, 2 for y, 1 for x, 4 for y. So that would be 1 for x, 4 for y, 2 and 6. And maybe we want to know, does the point 3, 8 lie on this graph? Well, how am I going to find that out? I'm going to graph that. I connect those points and see what kind of line it makes. And I check, does 3, 8 fall on that line? So I'll go over 3 for x and up for 8 for y. And yes, that point does fall on the line. One thing I notice when I'm looking at my x and y values are here, this is quadrant 1. All my x values are always positive and my y values are always positive. Here in quadrant 2, my x values are always negative because here's when I go past the y-axis, that's when I'm in the negative zone for my x. So x's are negative, y's are positive. Down here in quadrant 3, x's are negative and y's are negative. And here in quadrant 4, my x's are now positive, but my y's are now negative.